Hi, it's Vishan from USA 4x4. So today I'm back with it's just an update of the builds that we are doing. So right now in the garage, I would say we have like four major builds, and obviously one is my own, the 40 series. But so the other three would be Paul's Mini, Classic Supercharged Mini. But that one I will have on a separate video since it's already running and we're moving it around. So that would have a whole walk around by itself. And the other two would be the Joshua's Range Rover and Chris 60 series. So we'll start with the 60 series. So the entire background for this is just a quick one. The 60 series was purchased by Chris, I think, sometime last year, and it was a car that he's new into the four-wheel drive. So it was something that he really admired, the car that he admired, and he wanted to get one. So he got a car that was relatively, I would say, done up. It was technically restored, so he got it at sort of a premium. I think he bought it high up in it was priced higher than what normally you would buy a 6 Series 4 to be done up. And the thing is, obviously he bought it with the intentions of initially just using it first before he brings it over to me for doing a powertrain swap or whatever. Unfortunately, that was not the case. He managed to drive the car, I think, for a whole 1 week before the transmission died. So it was a 12 HT with an automatic gearbox, and it was on 35s, but no ratios were done. So it was still the 6 Series axles and whatnot. But yeah, so he came to me. He came to me when he just got it, and then he did tell me his plans and all that. And obviously we were planning for like a few months down the road where I see him again. But unfortunately, within a week of usage, the car died. And that's the thing. So that's why I always take it with a pinch of salt. If someone says the car has been fully restored, to me, just doing the interior, having a really good interior or paint, doesn't mean it has been restored. That's for me. I really feel restoration starts from the ground, so it's from the chassis below and works its way up. And anyway, this car, so doesn't matter. It's going to be awesome, because what we're doing is we're putting in a 2UZ from a 100 series into that, and so that's already in. We have managed to place that in, and to take it one step further, Chris was like, you know what, Vishan, I think we've got to stick a supercharger on it. Yeah, so it's a 4.7 to 2 years a 4.7, and then now we got a supercharger from Bullet, so we're sticking that on. For me, look, not a lot of people would be able to approach a build of this build. Obviously the Range Rover is another level as well, but even for this, a lot of people don't even put the supercharger on a running 100 series 2UZ just because of how it's priced. But I think it'd be epic. Axles wise, we are going with 80 series axles. It'll be twin locked front and rear. Ratios is 4.56. I find that comfortable. We're running 35s on whether it's the 80 series or whether it's the 105s. I find them that's a comfortable place to be at. So 4.56 with 35s, full Dobinson suspension. Everything super pro. All that is done, and we sort of made the links and everything to be like factory standard. So if down the road the owner be like, okay, I want to upgrade my sway bars to say a super pro sway bar or white line sway bar, all he has to do is look at 80 series stuff and then put it in. So in Malaysia, the limitation is you can't do a body swap. So I can't, even though so we like the cabin of a 60, and obviously we just want the under workings of say an 80, but you can't do that. You can't take the entire cabin and just plop it up on the 80 series chassis. That's illegal. So hence why in Malaysia we have to work around. What we have to do is still maintain the 60 series chassis, 60 series cabin, and then all the mods have to be done on that frame and body. So yeah, it's definitely tricky, but thankfully we managed to get the major work done. Like, so the 80 series axles are in, the 2UZs in. Now we're actually focusing on paint, and so initially we thought we didn't need to have to paint the vehicle because it technically was painted. But as we were dry ice blasting, we realized that the paint wasn't really sticking too well, and the clear was really thin. So the clear coat that was done on the car was so thin that it's very hard to even try to detail the car or give it a polish. Like you barely have anything to cut down on. So but the color, we went back and forth with the owner, and we came to a color that was going to be, I think it's going to look really sick. It's a cacao pearl, if I'm not mistaken, the name of the color. And yeah, we even have custom rims being done, beadlock rims to match, to suit. And then the interior as well. So the interior was also done, but of course we want to use full leather, like real leather, hence why we're just redoing back everything. But thankfully every piece of the 60 is still there, so all we have to do is just rewrap a lot of stuff, because finding missing things would be harder. And that's the thing, so the next part would be we bolt on the supercharger, see if I need to do a bonnet, power bulge on the bonnet, but on the hood. But I'm guessing, looking at it, I'm hoping I don't have to, so I can still keep it looking like a sleeper. But we will know soon enough. And then another thing, so the next one, moving to the Range Rover Classic. Now the Range Rover Classic is interesting because Joshua he's familiar with four-wheel drives, but sort of brand new four-wheel drive. So this was his first time like getting into, like, he had a Jeep and whatnot before, but this is the first time getting into like getting a classic car, and how not to start with a Range Rover Classic. So for this, we tinkered back and forth, and he asked me like, what can we do possibly, and I was like, you know what, so in Malaysia another ruling is you have to stick engine swaps, you have to stick with the same manufacturer, so that way you can like legally endorse it. This was after 2016, so cars before 2016 you could put whatever in, and then now the ruling has changed. As far as I know, you have to put in back the same manufacturer. So we're going from the original engine was in it was the 3.5 V8, and now we are putting in a supercharger, the 4.2 supercharged that came off the Range Rover Sport. So with his build, it's crazy because we took out even the brake assembly, the whole hub assembly, to put into the Range Rover Classic, because from factory the Range Rover Classic has really small stuff, whereas like for Chris stuff, the 80 series rotors are basically the same size as the 100 series rotors, so it is front rear disc brake, so it's not really a problem. Obviously if you're a 60 series, that's a different story, but since it was an 80 series axle, so we didn't have to do that much of an upgrade, so we're still running DBA on that. And for Joshua's rotors, those are all Brembos, because that's what the Range Rover Sport ran. So we got that in as well. We adapted the 6-speed gearbox to a Defender transfer case, and then for the axles, everything has been rebuilt with chrome moly stuff, just so that you can take the ridiculous amount of horsepower there's going to be. And so in-cartainment for Joshua's side, it's quite aggressive. Like we're going like full morels, like there's a DSP, there's power amps, there's like everything in it, but all that's going to be hidden, and we're trying to keep it all hidden behind panels, so there's not really much to be seen. Color wise, so it was sort of a blue color before, and then we went with almost a classic heritage green. But the thing with Joshua's car, the hardest thing I would say with Joshua's car was actually the front and rear bumpers. So we went back and forward a lot, because we're not going to build a plastic bumper and stick it on. So a lot of influence came from the Chieftain. The Chieftain builds awesome vehicles, and obviously we wanted to do it out of metal. So and then when we progress and we do something, and then we look back at it and be like, it just doesn't seem to flow right. So we finally, after a few months actually of tinkering, I think we got it to a stage where we all are really happy with it, the front and rear bumper. And I think that was the hardest part about this build. And for him, for the hood, we had to do a power bulge, because the engine with the supercharger, factory supercharger, is just really tall. And I think if everyone knows the Range Rover Classic, it has a sort of a low dip in the center. So now it's using back the exact same lines, and it's now having a slight power bulge, giving us a 2 inch of clearance, which is what we need for the car. So Joshua's car is progressing. Obviously, it's a earlier build in comparison to Chris, but obviously it's also more intense in the sense that a lot of components were being changed, whereas the 60 series, a lot of things are from the interior are just being used back. So that's the difference between the two builds. I mean, they both have their own characters, and even for the owners, like for me, like Chris, he's more utility built, so he likes it really clean, but still like something that would not go for the zombie apocalypse, but like just be really rugged. And then Joshua is going for sort of a cleaner build, a street build, but a sleeper. I would say a sleeper build, but still, when you look at it, like, hey, there's something going on there. So yeah, so I mean, two different characters, and the thing is, I'm really happy that they both trusted me with the sense of power, like what powertrain to put in and what are the upgrades that we should do. And hence why I will always, like, when it comes to interior bits and things like that, I would actually listen to them, because at the end of the day, that's what they are going to be looking at. And but for me, obviously for UHA 4x4, for my name, I would want it to be reliable. So I think we put these two together, and then you have epic builds. So the next one I'm going to talk about would be the Classic Mini, and I have a whole separate video for that, because that's a car that's already running and out and about. So again, thank you guys so much for putting up with me and following me on all the social media channels. I shall catch you guys on the next one. Thank you so much.